Welcome back to Healthwise. With us is Dr. Carl Gonsoulin, a pediatric dentist and at Gonsoulin 022012b. And like I said, it's Happy Mardi Gras. And with Mardi Gras, of course, we got beads, but we also have candy that's being thrown in some of the parades. Doc, how does that affect you as far as pediatric dentistry with them throwing candy and all the kids eating a whole bunch of candy?
Well, you know, we want the kids to have a good time, and we don't have a terrible problem with candy. It's just like anything. How you use it can make all the difference in the world. Okay, and you know, you don't want it in too much, because the sugar, too much sugar is not that good, and you want to make sure you're regulating at a time where it won't cause the problems. You don't want the kids snacking on this all day long. And some of the candy is a little bit more difficult on the teeth. The real hard things, you can break teeth, you can break fillings. The real sticky things, you can maybe damage your tooth some kind of way. The major problem with the sticky things is it stays in the mouth too long, and it makes it easier for the bacteria to form the cavities. And the frequency of eating the thing, the candies and stuff like that, makes it easier for the cavities to form, because it gives them more opportunity for the bacteria to form cavities. So it's basically how you're going to eat the candy that makes, when you're going to eat the candy, that makes the biggest difference.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Doc. Well, let's talk a little bit about pediatric dentistry. Like I said, you deal with kids at an early age. When we talk about pediatric dentistry, what's too early, or is there such a thing as too early with kids?
Well, actually, it isn't too early. There's nothing too early, because we want the parent. The majority of the problems that happen with kids is because the parents didn't know it could happen and what to do to prevent it. Okay. Very few times you have somebody come in where they're actually going to be that prone to decay where there's nothing could have been done to stop it. That's pretty rare. Okay. So the parents get the problems before they know they can occur. And all of a sudden, now they can get lots of problems. So we want to see the parents early. Like, even before the kids have teeth, it's fine for them to come in and say, what do we do? You know, before the teeth come in, so they'll know a little bit to do about teething. They'll know a little bit to do about taking care of the teeth once the teeth come out. Definitely once the teeth have come in. Definitely at age 1 or before, the parents should come in for an examination to find out what's going on with the child, but to get the information they need to know to prevent the problems before they can get started.
Okay. Well, okay. Do you see a big living in this area in the South, do you see a big problem with the way we eat food? I know you said with the candy, the food staying in the mouth. I think we talk about sugar, juices, milk, and stuff like that. Is there a problem in this area more so than anywhere else with cavities and stuff? With
well, food is a big item in Louisiana, of course, and we're glad of it, you know. And but you know, we do have a high propensity to eating lots of sweets, to drinking lots of Coke drinks and that type of stuff, soft drinks with Cokes and stuff like that, lots of milk and things like that. And all those things at the wrong time can cause the problems. At too many times a day can cause the problems. I mean, we have great fudge and pralines and things like that, and all those things make it easier to have those things in the diet, you know. But again, it's not so much, you know, it's when we're doing these things, when it's making it, that it's going to make a difference, you know. You can, not that I'm promoting eating candy bars and that, but you can eat 10 candy bars at one time, and the bacteria will produce acid from the sugars in the candy bars and stuff like that, and it'll cause some damage to the tooth, microscopic damage to the tooth. Okay, when you take those same 10 candy bars and you eat one every hour, well, it'll produce 10 times, you know, average, but you know, they'll have the opportunity to produce acid 10 times rather than one time. Okay, and so it can greatly increase the possibility of causing the problems, because there's so much acid is what dissolves the enamel of the tooth, which eventually causes a cavity, and the acid is produced by the bacteria. Now, it's not only candy. There are lots of other things that can lead to decay. The main things are the refined carbohydrates, the white flour products, the sugar products. Those are the things that the bacteria can use to produce cavities much quicker than anything else.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's talk a little bit about for the people that don't know. We talk about cavities, and I know I've had different dentists on and stuff, but what exactly is a cavity? What is it, and what do we do for it?
Okay. Well, a cavity, like when I tell the children, because I want them to know what's going on, they have to understand what's going on in a way that they can understand it, okay? All right, a cavity is like a cave. A cavity, like a cave, is a hole in the mouth, okay? A cavity is a hole in your tooth. And what it is the destruction of the heart, the tooth itself, the crown of the tooth, and it's produced by food that we take in the mouth. There's a bacterial coating of the teeth called plaque. Okay, everybody has this, okay? This bacteria is trying to survive like anything else. It takes certain foods, especially the carbohydrates and the sugars, refined carbohydrates and sugars, and it lives off of these foods, and as a byproduct, it creates acid and water, okay? All right. The acid dissolves the enamel of the tooth. Eventually, it dissolves it enough that you have a hole. Now, once the hole is started, it's much easier for the bacteria to live inside the hole. Not that they're so much trying to eat the teeth as they're trying to survive, and the cavity is more of a byproduct. We don't know all the answers involved in it, but they're more trying to live, and they produce the acid as a byproduct, which creates a bigger and bigger hole in the tooth because you can't keep it clean once you have a hole there, okay? And finally, it gets to the point where it's destroyed the tooth or it's damaged the tooth that something needs to be done about it, okay? And so that's basically what a cavity is. Now, in the beginning, the best cavity is the one you never had to fill. The best filling is the one you never had to do. And so we want to do the prevention as the first step, but it starts off with a small cavitation maybe. At that point, maybe those areas can be just smoothed off so they can be kept clean, and if they can be kept clean, they won't get any worse. Maybe the flossing and brushing will be able to do that. Sometimes you can't get to that point where you can actually stop it. Maybe you can just slow it down a little bit. There are some areas like on the biting surface of the back teeth where there are grooves that are deep and narrow where you can't get the toothbrush in there.
Right.
And you can't keep those areas clean, and so some of these areas will form and decay. They're not always, but it's not uncommon, okay? All right. Those are the only areas that are actually kind of unable to be prevented, okay? Quote unquote unable. You can do something to certainly stop them and slow them down. The smooth areas of the teeth, which can involve the majority of the teeth, which is the tongue side, the cheek side, and in between those two areas there, those are smooth areas and basically very easy to clean and basically pretty hard to get a cavity on there, okay? And it's just a matter of keeping those areas clean, okay? And so once you have a cavity, depending on how big the cavity is, it starts off with the filling. You remove the decay, remove the unsupported, weakened area of the tooth, and fill that area with some kind of filling material. In the past, it used to be silver fillings, which are very, very good fillings if they're used correctly. Now we have a tendency to go toward more of the white fillings, because we have white fillings, especially in the front of the mouth. You'd always want to have white fillings, but in the back of the mouth, we have white fillings that are better than they used to be, and so they're acceptable to do a decent job in the back, okay? If the decay gets too big, or the amount of tooth structure you have to replace gets too big, then you have to go to either a partial coverage of the tooth or a full coverage of the tooth with what's called a crown or a cap. A crown and cap are basically the same thing, where you cover the whole tooth because there's not enough tooth remaining to support a filling. Okay, and so that's the basic ways you fix teeth is in the form of decay, you know, and then of course it can lead to more other things like root canals and missing teeth, and there's all kinds of ways to replace.
We'll hold that thought, and when we come back from this brief break with for our sponsors, we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit about root canals and other things you might have to do with teeth. Thanks.